friends, welcome back to our channel. Today I just have a new setup and tell me how you guys like that. Today we're going to be learning the Great Stone Face part 1. So let's just go into it. So before you read, seen from a distance, hilltops and huge rocks seem to assume various shapes. They may resemble an animal or a human figure. People attribute stories to these shapes. Some stories come true, others don't. The Great Stone Face is one such shape that reminds the inhabitants of the valley of a prophecy. What was it? Did it come true? So this is like the starting of the story, which they're like telling the hilltops and huge rocks, and they just seem to form shapes as we see the clouds. They also form shapes like dinosaurs, which is just our imagination. And is it true or not? And some of them come true or they won't come true. So did it come true? And like this making it with the story. So let's just go into it. So one afternoon when the sun was going down, a mother and her little boy sat at the door of their cottage talking about the Great Stone Face. So it's like the Great Stone Face is nothing but this stone which just resembles a face. Alright. Great Stone Face. They had only to lift their eyes, and there it was, plain to be seen, through miles away, with the sunshine brightening all its features. Okay. And then moving on. And what was the Great Stone Face? The Great Stone Face was a work of nature formed on the perpendicular side of the mountain by some immersing rocks which has been thrown together so that when viewed at a proper distance, and when it's nothing but it's just a piece of rock which has different shapes which resemble a face, which they call as a Great Stone Face, and it's totally done by nature, no man work or anything like that. And then the resembled features with a human face. If the spectator approached too near, he would lost outline of the enormous face. He could only see that there is a heap of gigantic rocks piled one upon another. But seen from a distance, the clouds clustering around it, the Great Stone Face seemed positively to be alive. It was believed for many people that the valley owed much of its fertility at the being of the stone face. So what they're saying here is that the giant stone face was nothing but it was a rock, and a lot of people, when they went near the rock, they just saw that they were just rocks piled upon one another, and when they see from a particular distance, it just looked like a face. That's very interesting, isn't it? Okay. So the valley owed much of its fertility, and they even said that the valley had a good amount of fertility for the soil, which makes plants grow much better. And it was because of the stone face, which was just what the people were thinking. And yeah, so a mother and her little boy, as we said earlier, sat at the door of the cottage, gazing at the Great Stone Face and talking about it. The child's name was Ernest. Mother, he said, while the great face smiled on him, I wish that it could speak. For it looks so very kindly, and that its voice must indeed be pleasant. If I ever see a man with such face, I should love him very much. So what he's telling is he and his mother were gazing just out of their sitting out of the house, and then just seeing the stone face. You guys can see they're just seeing just seeing the stone face, and like they're talking about it. And the boy's name was Ernest, and he was telling that he just felt like the stone face was like smiling at him, and then he was saying that if it could it would be even nice when he talks, and when he sees a man like the stone face, looking like this stone face, he will like him very much. So that's what the boy is telling to his mother. Just a normal conversation. So if an old prophecy should come to pass, answered his mother. So what is prophecy? A statement that tells what will happen in the future. It may happen in the future. So the people are like mints, that may happen, may happen. So if an old prophecy should come to pass, answered his mother, we may see a man sometime with exactly such a face as that. What prophecy do you mean, dear mother? He's asking, what is prophecy, dear mother? And inquired eagerly. He was like inquiring his mother about what is prophecy. Please tell me about it. So he was like very curiously asking his mother what was prophecy, out of curiosity. So his mother told him a story that her own mother had told her when she herself was younger than Ernest, that at some day future a child should be born. So what Ernest is asking was, so his mother told him a story that her mother told her when she was young, and they were talking, so that someday in the future that may happen, right? Prophecy means that may happen. Someday that a child should be born near that, I mean at that place, who was destined to become a greatest and noblest person. So so her that is that boy's grandmother told, which is her mother's mother, which is his mother's mother. He told that there should be someone who there should be some child who is born near the stone face who just looks like him. So who was destined to become the greatest and noblest person of his time, and whose face in manhood should bear an exact resemblance of the great stone face. Many still had faith in his own prophecy, but others took it to be nothing but idle talk. They'll be like, nah, it's not real. So some of them took it really seriously, that it's like really, that's true. I mean, the stone face is true. But some of them were like, the people are just talking like that. So that's just their own opinion. So we should not judge. And at all events, the great man of the prophecy had not yet appeared. The great man has not appeared. And oh, mother, cried Ernest, clapping his hands above his head like this, I do hope that I shall live to see him. His mother was an affectionate and thoughtful woman. It was proper, she thought, not to discourage the fanciful hopes of her little boy. So she said to him, perhaps you may. So she was like not telling him, no, it's not real. I mean, she was like really thoughtful and like kind, and she didn't want to discourage him or just like tell that those things are not true, just to make him feel sad. So she was like telling, perhaps you may. I mean, maybe you do. So and Ernest never forgot the story that his mother told him. It was always in his mind whenever he looked upon the great stone face. He spent his childhood in the log cottage when he was born. It was dutiful to his mother and helpful to her in many things, assisting her much with his little hands and more with his loving heart. In this manner, from a happy yet often pensive means thoughtful, which is like doing it with his heart. So pensive child, he grew up to be a mild and a quiet youth. Noble means kind of quiet and doing the good things. So, let me tell you guys this paragraph, what happened. So, Ernest was like, he was not able to forget the story his mother told him at that time. And then he was like, he grew up to be a very noble person, which is like very thoughtful and very kind, helping his mother with his little hands. More than his little hands, he made it with his love. So it was so cute. And then I'm just saying it's cute, okay, just don't write that. Yeah, so he was really thoughtful, and another word for thoughtful is pensive. So and then he grew up to be a very mild and quiet youth, which is pretty much like noble. And okay, one sec. And Ernest had no teacher. He didn't have any teacher, like how? But the great stone face became one to him. When the work of the day was over, he would gaze at it for hours until he began to imagine that those vast features recognized him and gave him a smile of kindness and encouragement. So Ernest did not have a teacher to motivate him or just do anything, and he just took the great stone face as his teacher, and then when after his work is all done, he just comes and sit the place where he and his mother sat, and then he just gazed at the stone face, and he just thought that it would smile at him and give him encouragement. So about this time, there were a rumor throughout the valley. Okay. Rumor throughout the valley that the great man who was bare a resemblance to the great stone face had appeared at the last. It seemed that many years before a young man had left the valley and settled at a distant seaport. Gathergold, which was his name, had set up a shopkeeper, and being sharp in business matters had become so very rich that it would have taken him 100 years only to count his wealth. In time, he thought of Native Valley and decided to go back and there and in his days where he had been born. So finally, the man, we say like the man, the great stone face was found, and his name was Gather Gold, Gold, and he was a shopkeeper, and he was like very like into business, and he was like so good at being like very sharp and so good at business matters, and then he had become very rich that it would have been taken like his whole life to count his wealth, and then he just thought to go to his native valley and decide to spend the rest of his life where he has born. And then Ernest has been deeply stirred by the idea that the noble man, the man of prophecy, after many ages of delay, was lent to be set up in his native valley. While the boys were still gazing up the valley, the day imagining that the great stone face turned his gaze, the noise of the wheels was heard, and a crowd of people cried, "Here comes the great Gathergold." So what happened here was Ernest was really into the idea of the stone face man. So the people were like, he was like, he was still in a gaze. He couldn't believe that the man he was waiting for a very long time had shown up, and yeah, and a lot of people were like, the crowd of people were like crying and like, "Wow, here comes the great man, got a goal." And like a carriage drawn by 4 horses dashed down the road. Within it, thrust partly out of the window, appeared the face with an old man with yellow skin. I mean, if you had seen some people with yellow skin, they're like pretty much old. So I don't know how to explain it, but hope you guys understand what I'm saying. So how was he? So a carriage was drawn by 4 horses, and like there were like 4 horses coming here, and then they just dashed through the road with the thrush partly out. There was a window, and in the window the boy is seeing an old man with yellow skin, and then the very image of the great stone face shouted the people, "Sure enough, the old prophecy is true. Here have the great man at last. Here we have the great man at last." And then what had greatly puzzled Ernest, they seemed to usually to believe that he was the likeliness which they this book is printed so badly. Likeliness which they all spoke of. He turned away sadly from the wrinkled rewardness of that unpleasant face. He gazed up the valley where the stone face seemed to say, "He will come. He will come. Ernest, the man, will come." So what is happening here is he was really disappointed with the old man's face. He wanted like a young person to come, and he thought it would like be a different way. So the face he imagined, it was not that way. So what happened, he was like, it was very unpleasant, and he gazed up. He was like, no man. And then he thought that the stone face said to him that he will come, Ernest the man will come. So this is the part 1 of it. It was so interesting for me to explain it to you guys. I enjoyed a lot. And for the next suspense, wait for the part 2. Bye.